everybody? We are back with another episode of the Pristine Connections podcast. I'm here with LiAnne Brown. We have some really exciting news. Last time y'all saw her, we were talking about Genesis Education Consulting, which we will talk about, but she just started Lily's Party in a Box. So super excited to hear about that. Welcome back.
Thank you so much, Ashley. It's great to be here.
Yeah, super excited to have you. Let's just dive in. Tell me about Lily's.
Wonderful. Well, I had an idea that came from my history of throwing themed parties at my home. And my friends and family always said, LiAnne, you should make a business out of this. And while I didn't really necessarily want to get into the event planning space, I thought one great way to do that would be to provide all of the magic for throwing a great themed party, and then to let the customer execute however they want to use the decorations. And that is how Lily's Party in a Box was born. So what it is a party supply business where I custom curate everything that a person will need for a party. So that means paper products, that means all of the decor, party favors, as well as activities and games so that they can engage their guests while they're being festive.
How fun.
Yes, and so the party packages are based on the number of participants, and so a person will go onto the website, choose a theme, note how many guests, and then choose from the available packages.
That's amazing. What's been your favorite theme party to throw so far? Since you've thrown them in the past,
Yes.
what's your favorite theme?
Oh, without a doubt, the Victorian era masquerade party was my favorite.
Oh, for sure.
Just
How
because
amazing.
the costumes, everyone really leaned in, and the costumes were amazing, and they enjoyed the murder mystery, and the person who was supposed to be killed fell right on cue.
Love it.
I love it when a plan comes together. It was so great.
Yeah. So were these just like dinner parties that you threw, or these were like special events that you just had? I mean, what made you just want to do themed parties?
Well, one of the things that I thought about was I have several circles of friends, and there can be circles of friends that may not have ever met or known my other circles.
Okay.
This was a great opportunity to sort of bring everybody together, and particularly with the murder mystery, everyone had a character card. So that meant they had to talk to everyone else to try to narrow down who they felt was the perpetrator of the murder. And that gave all of my individual friends a chance to get to know each other, which was really great.
That's amazing. How fun is that? I mean, so how long have you had this business then since you started it?
Oh, I just launched this month, so it's brand new.
That's amazing. So how have bookings been? I mean, are you starting to just see a lot of just inquiries?
Well, I've had some inquiries, and then I'm also going to be present for a couple of blog parties hosted by Allen City Lifestyle Magazine. So I'm going to have a table with promotional items, and I really look forward to talking to folks in the neighborhood, and that's my target market right there, is busy moms and dads who wish to throw a wonderful, elaborate, quality party, but they don't necessarily have the time and the energy to run around to different stores, look online. Sometimes products aren't available. I take all the hassle out of it so they can get their box, get things set up, and start partying.
That's amazing. So how long does it take? So can you do quick parties off the fly? Like if they needed something relatively quickly? I mean, how long does it take for you to gather everything that you need for the party?
Great question. And the answer is it really depends upon the theme.
Okay.
Now, for a lot of the themes, the sources through whom I source my supplies will allow me to get the supplies in about a week.
Okay.
But if someone had a custom themed idea, it might take me a little bit of time. So that may extend out the turnaround time about another week, depending on the nature of the materials that they would like included in their kit.
I mean, that's still a really good time frame, though. I mean, most of the time, it takes a while to plan, especially, those are elaborate parties, regardless of what the theme is anyway. And normally that takes a couple of months of planning. So knowing that you can kind of get that in quickly is huge. Like I dealt with my daughter's birthday party, which was Trolls theme, but I
Yes.
had a lot of issues getting some of this stuff because
Right.
Trolls is very heavily trademarked, and some of the stuff that I thought I could get, actually they weren't even allowed to sell, and I didn't know that. So
wow.
turn times on some things that I thought were fine to get, and they were like, sorry, we have to refund you. So I love to
man.
know that something like this exists. I think that's huge. I mean, are you gonna maybe target children's parties, or do you like to focus more on the adult parties?
Of the 130 themes
Oh my
that
gosh.
are available,
That's awesome.
about 2/3 of them are children's party themes.
Oh, great.
Yes, and the other third are adult party themes.
That's awesome. So, do you have competitors in this market space, or are you kind of just your own niche? I feel like you're just set up really well for success on this.
Well, thank you. You know, I have found that there are event planners who sometimes offer some of the decor and services, but I really only saw a couple of competitors via Instagram that are similar businesses.
Yeah.
I saw some overseas, but not too many in this area, so I think I am in a good spot.
That's amazing. That's really exciting. So, what were some of the risks that you've taken just kind of starting this business? I mean, I know you have your other business that you
Right.
do, so is this going to be your primary source? What's your plan for it all?
So my plan is for this to be my legacy business. You know, I've had Genesis Education Consulting as a business for the last 8 years, and I love instructional design. I'm an instructional designer by training. And so, from a risk standpoint, I think the greatest risk was transitioning to a product based market because I haven't done product based. All of my product, if you will,
Yeah.
are knowledge based, and you know, occasionally I will create physical products like workbooks that are all associated with training.
Sure.
So I think that was the greatest risk, just going out there, researching the market to determine what would be the long-term viability of my business model.
Yeah, that's great. So, will you still keep Genesis, or are you going to kind of eventually just transition out of that?
The goal would be to eventually transition away from the design, at least on the scale that I endeavor upon it right now,
Okay.
and really focus on the
That's-
business, on
yeah.
the party business.
Absolutely. Okay, well then let's talk about like unpopular opinions that people have about the. We'll just stick to your new business.
Sure.
About that industry. What are some unpopular opinions that you might have?
Well, I think one unpopular opinion is that it's really surrounding holidays or special occasions, when in actuality, I'm of the opinion that anyone can throw a party at any time for anything. So the convenience of Lily's Party in a Box is if you want to have, let's say, a girlfriend's getaway, or you're in the office, you'd love to throw a corporate party for your clients. There's a box for that. So you have the opportunity to throw a party for any occasion and have all the party supplies already gathered. So all you have to do is open the box, set up, and go.
That's amazing. That's actually really, I mean, while it might be an unpopular opinion, hopefully it becomes a little more popular. I mean,
Yes.
you have always heard about like, oh, I'm hosting a dinner party. And
Right.
I've heard of even ones where like the neighborhood gets involved and like you start at one neighbor's house for drinks, one for appetizers, one for,
Yes.
you know, and you can
The
turn.
progressive party.
Yes, you can turn that into an actual like themed party,
Most
which is
definitely.
fantastic. We obviously talked about like competition, but I mean, right now, are you just doing this by yourself since you just started this month, or are you planning on hiring employees to help and scale?
Well, I have a virtual assistant. She will be continuing on with me, particularly because she has an online marketing background.
Okay.
And I'm also going to take on another part-time employee in the fall once
Nice.
sales really start to pick up, and I need another pair of hands to help me both with back office as well as with fulfilling the orders.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's kind of dive into partnerships a little bit. You obviously have the places that you source from, but talk to me about partnerships. How are you, really just getting your supplies, and how are you going to lean on that? How's that going to be helpful?
Absolutely. I've really leaned into a variety of different ideas for business partnerships. For example, I just met someone just the other day who has a balloon business for making custom balloon designs, arches, things of that nature. Also, I plan to partner with a couple of event planners in our groups, because then if somebody really truly does want the event planning piece, then I will have an associate partner already in my pocket to pass along to them.
Sure.
I'd like to add on a caterer as well and a DJ, so that if someone was planning a party and really wanted those additional services to be there, that I'll have some preferred folks for them to refer to.
Absolutely. So I want to talk about, I guess, the difference between your business and an event planner, because obviously event planners really bring in a lot of the different vendors.
Right.
So event planners really aren't competition for you. If anything,
No.
they're actually good synergy.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Most definitely, which is why I'd like to partner with event planners, because we may be able to certainly work off of each other synergistically.
Yeah.
If they have events for which the client needs decorations or the paper products, even if I needed to just parse out what they need, then I could be the source for them as well. So lots of opportunities there, most definitely.
That's really great. What's your strategy looking for those partnerships? Are you still going to lean on your networking, or what's your plan for finding them?
Well, leaning heavily on networking, and I'm also planning on and have on my calendar already a few events that I'll be attending to field additional partnership opportunities. So I want to attend as many events as possible to get my name out there, and also just to meet other folks to where I can find other like-minded individuals who would be a really great fit as a business partner.
That's amazing. Is there anything else that you want to share? Because I want to go dive into your education consulting business too. But anything else that you want people to know about Lily's, like why you feel it's important that they hire you for events? I'd love to know.
Absolutely. This, again, is a convenience business. If someone wants to throw a party and they don't want the hassle, or who knows, not every person is creative enough to come up with a theme and execute it the way that they would like for it to be done, Lily's Party in the Box is a fantastic solution for obtaining all the materials that they need, and they get all the bragging rights. I will sit back and let you take the credit for having thrown a beautiful party with the ingredients that I curated for you.
That's amazing. Well, with 133 different, themes, I think you're going to be just fine. That's great. Themes people probably didn't even think about,
Absolutely. I tried to be as creative as possible while also ensuring that there were materials that are out there and available, so that I won't have any problem fulfilling any of the orders.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess too, another question, like I had talked about with like the trademark stuff, is it hard to find certain products that you need for some of these themes?
It can be, especially for the trademarked items, it can be a challenge. So I want to just really set reasonable expectations with clients concerning if there's a particular theme, like a Disney theme, that there could be some limitations on the types of materials. Like I can't just print a Disney princess on a napkin.
I know.
There would be licensing limitations associated with that. So depending upon the theme, I'll just, let the client know what I am able to do, and we'll always find a creative solution no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely meeting those expectations. Well, that's fantastic. This is super exciting. I'm kind of intrigued. I want to go check out your website and see
Wonderful.
what that looks like. We've always joked about like having like dinner parties. I'm like, I feel like this would be so much fun if we just all got together and had like a game night, which you're saying like the murder mystery stuff is really popular, and a lot of people enjoy that, especially for corporate holiday parties, which again, you can do at any time, but during the holiday season, that's what a lot of corporate facilities do, because it really brings people together. So
most definitely, and it really helps me to bring in my background in higher education and in instructional design, because if someone wanted to throw a corporate party and have team building activities, those are something that I've done on the instructional design side as well.
Absolutely.
So it gives me a chance to leverage all my skills.
Yeah, absolutely, which is a good segue. So how has business been? I know it's been a minute since we last talked on the podcast.
Yes.
Where are you at? Is the summer season a little bit slower for you as far as like building materials, or is this a prime time before everybody kind of kicks back off of school and stuff?
There's really an ebb and flow to it. Right now, I have 3 major projects that I have going on. And so the way that I choose my projects, I'd like to have 1 to 2 large scale, meaning the 4 to 6 month timeframe projects, and nestle in some smaller projects. So, for example, I'm building out a brand new pharmacy technician program for a college in East Texas, while at the same time, I'm going to be partnering with a couple of institutions for grant-funded projects in the allied healthcare education space.
That's great.
While at the same time, I'm designing brochures for a couple of clients, as well as whiteboard animations.
Yeah.
I've noticed that a lot more people have been asking for whiteboard animations, and that's another thing that I've been doing for clients recently. So business continues to be steady.
That's great. Hey, that's really, really great. Especially, I mean, we talked a lot on the last podcast too about how individuals learn. And I feel like there's a lot of very visual learners, especially as technology just becomes so much more enhanced these days. So
yes, indeed. That's for
great.
sure.
That's really great. I'd like to know too on that front, what's an unpopular opinion that you have about the education consulting business?
I think one misconception is just a very general one. When I say I'm an instructional designer, no one knows what that means. And so really instructional design, a lot of people think that that is just involving just courses. But in actuality, I work with faculty, I design full-length courses, I design just laboratory activities for a course, and I also design workshops in a corporate space. And so the instructional design industry is very broad, and I don't know that everyone knows all the different types of learning content that we develop.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
What about industry standards? Obviously, I mean, like I just said, technology changes a lot. I'm sure course materials change as the years go on. So how have industry standards changed since you really started 8 years ago?
Absolutely. I think the one obvious change has been the introduction and integration of AI-driven tools.
Yeah.
When I first started, I think machine learning was part of narration technology for generating voiceovers, but every single tool, whether it's the Adobe Creative Cloud or Beyond, with which I develop whiteboard animations, a lot of these tools have AI incorporated into them. And really, even for content development, I utilize AI. I'll provide it with a prompt. I'm in the process of developing voiceovers for a series of lectures, and I've been able to leverage AI tools for a lot of that voiceover content as well. It helps to be a subject matter expert because you always have to verify the validity of content that is generated by AI for accuracy and currency. And so while those tools are out there and available, I think it's a buyer beware kind of thing as well.
So you've really leaned into AI. I was going to ask, if you think that AI might eventually take over that space altogether, but it doesn't really seem like it because, like you said, you have to check the validity. But what are your thoughts on, do you think it might take over the industry completely?
I don't think so, and here's why. There always needs to be a human element to teaching and learning. And while I can leverage a lot of tools to create the content delivery, from one semester to the next, you never know who's going to be in your learning audience. And that goes in the corporate setting with those who are going to attend corporate training. And so from one semester to the next, every instructor, the quality ones, take their content and they tweak a little bit to better accommodate the needs of their learning audience. And so I think that it's really super important to bear that in mind. So I think it will make our lives a whole lot easier. Yeah. My husband just showed me an AI tool where you just give it a 1-sentence prompt and it just creates a video. And that's all well and good.
That's crazy.
But you have to think about accessibility, ensuring that the representation in your video is diverse. There are so many things to think about that the tools are a wonderful help.
Yeah.
But I don't know that they would be able to end-to-end produce training.
Sure. Wow. That's a lot to think about too, especially as AI continues just to grow.
Absolutely.
I was going to ask about employees, but really I want to kind of focus on clients. So obviously not every client might be a great fit. I think it obviously depends on what their needs are and, what you provide. So how do you vet out your clients? What are some traits that you look for in wanting to, hire on those clients and vice versa?
I think one of the primary things I think about is quality. Do they want to produce a quality product, and are they centered on ensuring that they're meeting the needs of their learning audience? I feel that all too often learning can be canned, and there are a lot of providers out there that will produce kind of that canned content. But my tagline is elevate your learning. I, as an academic, am very much in the social constructivist space, meaning there needs to be meaning in learning and not just simply checking a box.
Sure.
And so I think that it's extremely important when I'm considering working with a client. I want a client that is just as excited about their learners as I am, and not to just simply produce the content and let it run and see, throwing something against a wall and see what sticks, but really to focus on what are those key learning outcomes, kind of like what I talked about during the last podcast episode. The learning outcomes drive everything, because when they're well written, they speak to who the audience is, what type of learning is going to take place, what extent of learning is going to take place, and then how that learning can be measured. And so I get excited, particularly in the corporate space where a lot of learning outcomes assessment doesn't take place, when someone wants there to be a means for tracking learner success and really defining what success looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you ever find yourself like say you created a course for, a corporate company, do you go back and just revise based on like the prior course, or do you just start from scratch and create a new course for them? I mean, how often do these companies like come back to you for training materials?
That's a great question. Really and truly, I receive callbacks from individuals when they need the content refreshed for whatever reason.
Okay.
I will also say that when I'm first starting a project, one of the first questions that I ask is if there are any source materials that are available. Because if they do have materials and they're strong, I'd like to take those source materials and then integrate them into the content that I'm developing. So if I don't have to start from scratch, that's really great. But I most certainly can if I need to, depending on their needs.
For sure. What's it like with partnerships for that industry specifically? I mean, do you lean on other partners to build the content? I mean, is it just solely you and your company?
It is primarily me, but my virtual assistant also helps me with some of the design responsibilities. And to be quite honest, my kids are my admin assistants.
Hey, that's okay. It's a great opportunity for them to learn, especially because you deal with so many different types of industries.
Most definitely.
But have you been focusing on health? I mean, you said you had a lot of health clients like Allied and a couple of others, pharmaceuticals.
Yes, I really like to partner with a subject matter expert if it's a field that's outside of my immediate expertise, which part of my background is pharmaceutical care. And so the pharmacy content, I can still serve as a subject matter expert, but for others, it is critical that I work with subject matter experts. And when I think one thing that sets me apart from other IDs, instructional designers, is that I can work with just about any subject matter expert, because SMEs, as they're also called, can come in all shapes and sizes and backgrounds, especially with a history of working with an instructional designer. And so I like, at the very beginning when I'm working with a subject matter expert, for us to sit down and just get to know each other as individuals first, learn about their working style and how they work best, how they'd like to share course information with me and what's going to be easiest for them. So some of the comments that I've received from other subject matter experts was, wow, I didn't know what it was going to be like working with an instructional designer, and you were so patient and you made the process so easy. So that's kind of my goal if I'm partnering with someone who is the content expert.
Yeah. So since you have a background with pharmaceuticals, do you have to keep up with certain credentials to be able to continue to talk about it before you move on to like a subject matter expert? I was just out of curiosity.
Yes.
Okay.
To maintain a pharmacy technician license, you renew your registration with the Texas State Board of Pharmacy every 2 years.
Okay.
And then that entails fulfilling 21 hours of continuing education credit every 2 years.
Okay.
So I maintain my currency with the pharmacy industry by completing continuing education content. And I really look out there for things where there could be gaps, like with brand new medications, with brand new processes, with pharmacy law, which can change on an ongoing basis,
Sure.
as well as measures for ensuring medication safety and patient safety.
Yeah. Interesting. I was just curious because in the health space, I know there's obviously a lot of, just you have to go back and renew because things change so much, obviously, in the health industry. So interesting. I love that. So what's your strategy when you're, dealing with clientele, whether it be, colleges or just different institutions? Talk about that a little bit.
Sure. If I'm working with an institution, there are a lot of different types of design strategies. One strategy which works better in the corporate space is rapid prototyping, where you produce that minimum viable product and then you build upon that based on the client's needs. Whereas in higher education, generally, I am producing a course blueprint and vetting that with the client initially, and then building everything out, and then they review after the materials have been built. So there's a little bit of risk that's involved with what we call waterfall design, because if there need to be any changes, the changes can be larger scale, whereas if you perform more of a rapid prototyping or SAM methodology in your design, it allows you to catch changes a little bit quicker and earlier in the process. So there are pros and cons to both.
That's really great. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to share, whether it's about the education consultant side or your new venture, just so that everybody can, take away?
Absolutely. For Lily's Party in a Box, until my website is live, I encourage everyone to contact me by our email address, which is info@Lily's, that's LILIS, partyinabox.com, or by phone at 817-663-3584. And for Genesis Education Consulting, anyone can visit my website, contact me by phone or email to discuss their next project.
Love that. Well, thank you for joining us again. This has been super insightful. Really excited to see where this new venture takes you. We will see you next time.
Okay, that sounds great. Thanks so much, Ashley.
Of course.